Three great opportunities to make some good profits from the markets with Ethereum, Solana, and Litecoin. So we're going to do some high probability technical analysis and see the setups coming over the next few days. We can get the trend in our favor and some objective entry strategies. So if you like today's content, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and let's go make some money. So we're starting with Ethereum. The main thing is we want to keep things really simple. We're looking for patterns of 5s and 3s in the direction of the trend. So let's just look at the trend identifier dashboard in the bottom right hand corner. The weekly is a bull trend, is up, but the daily is overbought, which tells us that the upside is limited. So the immediate is we want to stand aside. But what I want to see with Ethereum before considering a long position is we've had this 1, 2, looks like a 3, 4, and a very impulsive wave 5. This was a CPI announcement the other day. And what I would like to see is some type of A, which we seem to have, some type of B, which looks like it's forming, and then a C correction. And if we get this C correction, then there's some nice buying opportunity if the daily momentum becomes bullish, because it's like there's a trend, there's a momentum, there's a rhythm, and we want to always go in the direction of the trend. If the momentum and when the momentum becomes oversold and bullish, basically here it will say consider buying, and we've got a pattern position like this, we can look to go long above a swing high with a stop loss below a swing low. That'd be a nice trading opportunity, keeping in mind that our weekly momentum is already bullish. So that just indicates that it's going to be sideways to up overall on a macro picture for the next few days and possibly even a few weeks. So that's Ethereum. By the way, people are getting great use out of the trend identifier dashboard. If you want to check it out, you can now actually trial it for 30 days. It's £1. You also get some buy and sell trade signals added to that as well, which is linked to the trend. And I'll put in a whole foundation training on how to utilize this. £1, 30 days. Check it out. I use it all the time. It's a big part of my trading strategy, but I just made it very simple to use. So now we're looking at Solana. Now, two parts of Solana. I do believe we're still in a correction, but remember there's a macro picture, an intermediate picture, and then a micro picture. And there's waves within the waves. And we can even trade against the major trend because there's intermediate waves within the macro wave. So I'm going to talk about that today. So with Solana, let's look at the trend identifier first. The weekly momentum is bullish. So there's a strong bull uptrend. That's based on the stochastics RSI. It's a particular momentum indicator and some particular settings that I found to be incredibly useful. The daily is also bullish. So it says consider buying, right? So that's telling us the trend is up. We should consider betting on the upside of the market. And then we look at the pattern position. Remember what we're looking for? 5s and 3s. 5s and 3s. And what I'm really looking for is momentum, which is the dashboard. We've got pattern, which is Elliott wave. We're going to talk about that in a second. Fibonacci price and Fibonacci time. So we're going to focus on pattern and price on this. So with Solana, we had in late November, this big surge to the upside. Now it looks like now we've had this A, B, C structure. This is what I'm referring to as the 5s and 3s. We've got a clean ABC structure. The momentum is bullish. We had this nice surge to the upside, CPI the other day. And we've taken out some swing highs. So what that's telling me from a crowd psychology, buying and selling perspective, making money for the markets, is that this low is likely to hold. In other words, it's unlikely that the price is going to go below here. It can do, but it's unlikely. So what I'm looking for now with Solana in particular, if I just zoom in to this part of the market, I know there's a lot going on the market, so let's just clean this all up, is because the trend is up, our weekly momentum is bullish, daily is bullish, we should consider buying. We've had this nice surge to the upside. The ideal would be, if it occurs, and it probably will, is an A, B, C style correction. Remember what I'm saying? 5s and 3s. If we do get an ABC correction, it just requires a bit of patience, might take a day or so, and the momentum on the daily is still bullish, I would consider taking a long trade setup, which is basically bet on the market going up, probably on a swing high, buy on a swing high with a stop loss either below here, or if there's a clear point to below the swing low, and then we'll just look to ride the trend to the upside. So that's Solana. Now again, I'm just going to pop out of this chart. I'm just going to put the drawings back on. Let's just pop this back on. Let's just now go to the daily chart with Solana. And what I wanted to just quickly show you with the daily chart is again, actually, I'll just hide these drawings and we'll just keep it here. With Solana, we've had this big correction, right? And again, this is the price action, keep in mind, takes into consideration everything that's happened so far. All the news, or the positive and the negative news and everything else. So what it looks like we have on our hands is that we're still in the correction. So we've got this big move to the downside. And I believe this is going to be some type of A. We've got this B correction over here. And we're likely to get a wave C. But we're looking to potentially trade this wave C, and it's probably going to get into the $18 to $22 range. That's what's likely and highly probable based on the pattern price and momentum position. But if we look at this, I've got it drawn here. What I've drawn here is the likelihood, again, just looking at it objectively, even if let me just clean this up as well. I'm just going to hide these. These are some of the signals that we got on the chart. We'll just hide those for a second. It's likely we are going to see some type of movement, break this high, but let's not get fooled that this is a whole new bull trend. It's unlikely to be. It's probably just going to be a surge to the upside. I'm looking to take profits over here, and then I'm actually looking to short the market, which is betting on the downside if this occurs. So now let's just jump into Litecoin. Litecoin, I've been waiting for this setup for a while. So we're on a daily chart with Litecoin. Now again, market's moving 5s and 3s. I'm telling you, if you can get your head around this, 5s and 3s. So you want to keep it really simple. We're going to go the trend in your favor. So we use the dashboard. So we want the higher degree trend and the lower degree trend to be pointing in the same direction, up or down. Then we want pattern position. I like to see a 3-wave correction. And if we got a nice clean 3-wave correction, breaking down to obvious psychological, crowd psychology, buying and selling behavior, then we're looking for price ratios. And then we're just looking for a nice simple entry strategy. 1 bar low or a swing low for shorts, and 1 bar highs or swing highs for longs. Risk 2% to find out if we're right. And we make a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5x risk reward ratio. And then we rinse and repeat. So with Litecoin, since, I don't know, what was the date over here? The date over here, I'm going to have to drag it over to the right, is mid-November, right? So mid-November, we've been, like everything, really, right? It's been down, big correction. And we've had this move to the upside with Litecoin from here to here. But it looks like an A, B, C correction in a particular Fibonacci price zone. This particular price zone is something called a wave 4, right? A wave 4 price zone. So I just want to talk about this for a second, because remember what I said, the markets have a macro wave, an intermediate, and a micro. And we want to be aware of each one because it can provide us with a lot of context. So when I'm looking at Litecoin over here, let me just show you like this. I believe we're probably going to see this occurring. So it looks like we're on the wave C of a macro correction. What I mean by that is we're talking about an A, B, C macro correction. And we're probably going to see the final leg of the wave C, right? That's what's likely to occur. And again, we're taking into consideration pattern price and time. Pattern price and time, especially momentum as well. And when I'm looking at the wave C, which is this part here, we're going to see, does it break down to some type of 5-wave structure? And it looks like we've had this wave 1, some type of wave 2, looks like a wave 3, it looks like a wave 4, and a potential final wave 5 occurring. So we're looking to trade this. This is what I'm looking for. We're waiting patiently for this setup for days and weeks, right? Days and weeks. So now when I zoom in to this part of the market, right, we'll just zoom in over here, and I'm just going to zoom in like this just to really pull it up. What we've effectively got on our hands, and again, it doesn't mean it is the case, it just looks like it is, and then we'll look at the trend, and then we'll look for entry strategies, and then we'll short. This is a shorting opportunity that we're looking at with Litecoin, because it's likely to do what we're anticipating. So it looks like some type of A, B, C. It's in a typical wave 4 price zone. We've got some other ratios that are very, very key as well that we want to be aware of. Excuse me. What we also want to be aware of is wave C's tend to break down into a 5-wave structure. And what I mean by that is this final part of a wave C, what we've got drawn in red, this part here, it looks like in the blue, you'll see that it looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? What we're looking for, 5s and threes. I'm telling you, it blows your mind when you can start seeing the crowd psychology playing out time and time again. So it's likely that we've hit a top over here, and this could be the initial move to the downside for a continuation to the downside. And we want to take advantage of that. So now let's just look at the momentum, and then we'll finish up on an hourly chart to get some of the detail. So the momentum with Litecoin is that the weekly momentum, which is the rhythm, right? And it tends to coincide very, very nicely, is it's strong overbought. And what it tells us, and the way I've designed this, it tells us that the upside should be limited, right? We might be at or near a weekly top. That tells us when the momentum totally reverses, we're probably going to be sideways to down for a number of weeks, right? Number of weeks. That alone is powerful. But if we can now coincide it with pattern, so now when we coincide it with pattern of a potential wave C that's broken down to a potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now we've got higher degree time frame telling us that we're at or near a weekly top. We got pattern telling us we're at or near a weekly top that may last for a number of weeks. So this low is likely to get exceeded to the downside. And then we're talking about Fibonacci price zones that tells us that we're at or near a weekly top, right? So now that's called a confluence of events. So that's where we're stacking the odds in our favor, where we're now the casino. Doesn't mean we're guaranteed to win because we want to still have tight risk management. So now what we're going to do, what I'm looking for over here is an entry point. So I'm on high alert, very high alert, that the dashboard, if I even want to make it a bit bigger, here you can actually, there's some cool things we got factored into the dashboard, is I'm on high alert that, oh, this is a background picture of me and my wife. There you go. All right. The weekly dashboard tells us, or the dashboard tells us the weekly upside is limited, but where's the current immediate daily trend? Well, the immediate daily trend is strong and bull uptrend. So what I want to wait for is for this to become overbought and bearish. In other words, down. So it points in the same direction as the weekly. Then what to do section will automatically tell me consider selling, in terms of consider shorting the market. And that's what I'm now waiting for with Litecoin. And that's what this is over here. The momentum indicator is basically the dashboard. It just simplifies what this is showing you over here. Because I know a lot of people find it a bit complicated. So I've just simplified it. So basically when the red line goes above this line over here and the blue does the same and crosses beneath the red, that's when this down here becomes red and says bear downtrend. This becomes red and it says consider selling, and then we'll want to consider selling. And that, in the ideal world, we don't obviously live always in an ideal world, but if I go to a 60-minute chart now, what I'm seeing with Litecoin, if I just squeeze this in a bit, and in fact we can get rid of this. Let me just get rid of this on this time frame just to clean up the chart a little bit. Is it looks like we may have on our hands a move to the downside, which might be the initial move down, an irregular ABC correction. Remember, 5s and 3s. I'm always looking for these ABC zigzags. What we got denoted in green at the moment, this A, B, C. It's called an irregular because this wave B has gone beyond the extreme of the previous 1 or A, right? And I call it 1 or A. If you're familiar with Elliott waves, you don't want to get too attached to your wave counts, right? You want to just know that the crowd psychology is moving and we've got a high probability thesis on what is likely to occur next, but we need to stay flexible because something could happen in the market and say, oh, actually, the crowd doesn't seem to be feeling like that. It seems to be feeling more bullish because the pattern is telling us, or bearish, and so on and so forth. So it looks like we've got an irregular ABC correction on our hands. So rather than shorting right now, what I'm waiting for is to stack the odds in my favor, is just being patient for the daily momentum. It might take another 1, 2, 3 days to become overbought or bearish. In other words, so the higher time frame and the lower time frame momentum is pointing down. That stack the odds in my favor, and then I'll look for a nice trading opportunity. It'll probably going to be on a swing low, so it'll be either on a local swing low or this swing low. So I want to go short on the market. I want to have my stop loss no further than this top over here. So just so you know how you should be thinking about stop losses, because again, this I find people get confused on stop losses or get too emotional about getting stopped out. Basically, what we're saying here is this. This is the absolute clear logical thinking. We believe that once we get a daily momentum bearish reversal, that Litecoin is going to continue to the downside. And what do I mean by that? So if I just give you the macro picture on a daily chart, so you can really get a clear picture on the potential big move to the downside, is what I'm effectively saying is Litecoin is likely, all right? We never have a guarantee, but likely to break this low. Because after an ABC correction, most common is a continuation of the former trend to a new extreme. So what do I mean by new extreme? It basically means some type of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that's what we're looking for over here. So, we're looking for a $40, $20 Litecoin, and it's currently 78. And if we get a nice tight entry, we can make some really good profits on the way down, right? So that's the thesis. So then why do we use a stop loss as an insurance policy? Well, we want to risk a certain amount so we can take a really healthy position, but we want to say to ourselves, if this price action happens, we no longer want to be in the market. It doesn't look like this is going to unfold. So then that's our insurance position. So the way you really should be speaking to yourself, and when you're doing your trade plan, when we're looking at this, is what I'm saying is, if and when the momentum turns bearish, the daily, so we've got a double time frame momentum pointing down, I want to put in an order to go short on this swing low and a stop loss on this swing high. I want to risk 2%. So this distance represents 2% of my entire account, right? So if you've got a $100,000 account, it's $2,000. You're risking to find out if you're right. If you've got a $10,000 account, you're risking $200 to find out if you're right. But what we're saying is, let's just say the market does trigger us in. Let's say it triggers us in. But then what I'm saying is, if the price ends up going above this high, let's just say it goes up above this high, I don't want to be in the market no more. I go, look, it doesn't seem to be doing what I think it should be doing, right? In fact, what will really be the reality is, so you're always asking yourself, what should the market not do if the trend is to continue in the direction that you're betting, right? So if we're shorting the market, so again, let's say we went short on this low over here and we get triggered in, and let's say our initial stop loss is up here. Well, when I get triggered in, right, when I get triggered in like this, and if this was a live trade, I would ask myself, what should the market not do if the trend is to continue as we anticipate? Well, it shouldn't take out this high, but in fact, it shouldn't actually even take out this high. So then I just move my stop loss to over here, reducing my risk from, this distance represents 2% risk. And let's just say this is roughly halfway. So then you risk it, you move your stop loss to this point, and you haven't become risk-free, but you've reduced your risk by half. So if you've got a $100,000 account and you're risking $2,000, and then this happens and you adjust your stop loss to a swing high, which is what this is referred to, now you've changed your risk from $2,000 risk to a $1,000 risk. You go, well, why would you risk anything? Why would you risk anything? Well, we're in the business of making money, right? You have to risk something to make money. And what's the trade potential? Well, let's just look at it, right? Let's just say we did this trade, and let's just do it like this. Let's just say we did. Let's say we did it like this. All right, we'll be a bit more aggressive on this particular example. I just want to get this concept across to you. So let's just say we went short on the swing low, which we said, but let's just say we put our initial stop loss above the swing high, right? Which is another trade entry strategy, right? And what's our trade expectations? Well, I'm going to show you two things, and we'll finish on this because I don't want to. I'll keep it relatively sharp. The way I work is we have our minimum trade expectations. So what I would always suggest you do is have a conservative unit and an aggressive unit. So in other words, you open two positions. So again, if you're risking 2% on your trade and you got a $100,000 account, let's say a $10,000 account, and you're risking $200, well, you want to have $200 positions. And what I would suggest you do is say to yourself, right, the minimum that the market is likely to do if we're wrong is we've got to move down. We got an A, B, C correction. We're probably at least going to get one more move down, right? So I would adjust I would look to exit half of my position in this range, right? But here, the risk reward is around a 1x to a 2x, right? In other words, we're going to lock in some good profits. And this is risk management, right? You want to have good risk management strategies. But the aggressive part of the trade, if the trend totally unfolds, what am I expecting? Let's see how this lets me. Again, I'm just gonna draw it on the daily, and then it'll be easier for you to see this. The trade expectations. We'll go back to the hourly in a second. Is something called an external retracement. So wave 4s and wave 5s have a very specific relationship, and the most common relationship is that wave 5s end in something called an external retracement of 1.272 to 1.618. That's most common, right? Doesn't mean it's guaranteed. It can go further. So that tells me that Litecoin, if it unfolds, is likely to go to 27 to even $12, right? Just looking at it in a non-emotional way. If you think Litecoin is the best thing in the world, if you don't like Litecoin, I go, look, I'm neutral. Just want to make money, right? I'm just the easygoing guy. I can read the markets, just want to make money, right? So this is what we think is going to happen. So now, if I just go back to a 60-minute chart where we drew what we drew. In fact, sorry, let me just make sure this is showing on the 60-minute chart as well. Yeah, it is. All right, so now we're just going to clean this back up. We're just going to zoom back out so we can see what we just drew. Just going to squeeze it like so. This is our minimum expectations. Again, I got to really squeeze it in because you see it's a big move, right? It's a big move. It's no joke. This is we only need a handful of these, right? This is how we trade. So this is our minimum expectation over here in this zone. But our actual trade expectation for our second unit, for our profit unit, for our aggressive unit, our optimistic unit is this zone over here, right? So now if we just drag that down, if we had this actual entry, and we'll look to compound if the trend unfolds as well, but we won't talk about that today. We're talking about between, if I just draw it to here, 7.5x, right? So that's 750% risk reward potential. And then if it goes to the extreme, which is down here, which is a common thing for wave 5s when you got a clear wave 4, is a 10x, right? That's 1,000% risk reward, right? And that can be a really healthy addition to your account. This can be 10, 15% trade on one trade. And what we're effectively looking for with Litecoin, and it'll take a number of weeks, it won't be overnight, right? And this is where you got to really understand the nature of the markets. It could be a potential wave 1, a wave 2, some type of aggressive wave 3, some type of wave 4, and some type of wave 5. That's what we're looking for. And what you want to do is have logical places to adjust your stop loss. So when you got your minimum expectations, I don't go into a bit of detail here, but when you got your minimum expectations met, and we want to ask ourselves, if this is the minimum, the market has the probability of doing this, right? So we want to lock in some profits over here, become risk-free in our trade, basically manage the risk, and then if this unfolds, we wait for a nice wave 4 correction, and then this. So we're talking about this being a wave 1, a potential wave 2, potential wave 3, potential wave 4. When this low gets exceeded in this example, we'll move our stop loss from break even on our second half of our position to this swing high, and then when we're approaching this typical zone, we'll start to tighten our stop loss. And that's just the business of trading, right? That's how you trade in a professional, logical manner with the probability in your side. So which one of the three is your favorite? Is it Ethereum, Solana, Litecoin? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to check out the trend identifier dashboard, the dashboard is so powerful. Like what I'm telling you is this at the bottom over here. Such a powerful tool. I've spent 15 years really in the making because, normally it's complicated because normally what you have to do, right? Just so we're on the same page. Normally, basically what the dashboard does for you is normally you're looking at the higher degree time frame, you're looking at the lower degree time frame, and then you got to mentally process the blue is above the red, double time for momentum, and I just find a lot of people get confused. So for that reason, we've built the trend identifier dashboard. Now all of that hard work is done for you. So you just simply look at it, and you can change the settings. You can add multiple different accounts, so you can have up to 20 different assets. So you can list them out, or you can just keep it to the chart that you're looking at. So you use it in multiple different ways. So it's £1. It's phenomenal. It's £9.97 thereafter. I built a whole training on how to leverage it, the maximum that you can. Just is basically to identify the trend, right? The trend is your friend. We want to ride it until its end, until it reaches its bend. But then it's hard sometimes to identify the trend so you can ride it. So the dashboard is a logical, mechanical way of just seeing it and then add in the 5s and the 3s, which is pattern, price, and then Fibonacci time can be really, really powerful as well. So let's finish on a quote from my book. Let's go with chapter number 8 today. We'll go with Henry Ford. I loop these, right? Because they also say repetition is the mother of all skill, and that we operate as unconscious beings. We operate 95% unconsciously. And by repeating these quotes, and if you put attention into them, because it's also said that attention is the medium through which material appears in your consciousness. What that means in English is basically your mind is like a video recorder, a camera, and it's constantly recording and listening. And that's why you want to be careful of what you're exposing yourself to, whether it's positive or negative things in life. The news, be aware of what's happening in the world, but beyond a certain point, the news it's just negative, and it's just almost filtering your mind with fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that can, when it comes to trading, can be a really bad thing because the news is designed to throw you off. So Henry Ford, let's get this into our unconscious. He said, "It has been my observation that most people get ahead during the time that others waste." In other words, winners are working on their craft. The best artists and creatives are working on their art. You, as a business individual who is now getting to the level of thinking of trading like a business in a logical, mechanical, objective way, when it's not just gambling and just doing what we feel and listening to news and everything else, we're going double time for momentum. Let's really get that baked in. Whatever strategy you're using, that one thing in addition to your current strategy would be a massive edge. And then my personal favorite is pattern position, 5s and 3s. I'm just looking for those ABC corrections. If I see them and the momentum's there, I go, great, let's just enter it. Right? Risk 2% to find out if we're right. And even if we're right 30, 40% of the time, we're going to make some really good money in the long term. Right? It's a long-term game. And there you have it. So the trend is your friend. Ride it until its end, until it reaches its bend. Let me know what you think. What's your top pick? Is it Ethereum? Is it Solana? Or is it Litecoin?